hello, hello. We are hopping on live and I'm having Megan come on here. Let's see, hello. Let me see if I can find Megan. She is, you guys are going to love this. She is a wealth of information, a clinical nutritionist. I'm looking for her right now. And she's a functional nutrition practitioner. She is brilliant, and I've learned so much from her when it comes to, what's important when it comes to fiber. I've been obsessed with fiber and what it does in your body. So let me see if I can see. There you are.
Hi.
Yay! Okay, I'm going to zoom out because now I'm like really big. This is awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I am so excited about this. I was just sharing with everyone a little bit about you, but I would love to hear a little bit about your background. Tell me more about that, and also like how you became, I'm going to use this word, like obsessed with fiber. Like
That's appropriate. Yeah, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Chris. And so I am not really adept at technology, so hopefully this is all working. You can hear me okay?
I think it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Okay, awesome, great. So my journey to fiber probably started when I was even a kid. I was a kid that had constipation. My mom was a nurse. She'd take me to the pediatrician. And I think all the way through my childhood and even my 20s, every doctor was like, eat more vegetables. And that was maybe a recommendation in my childhood, even though I had a pretty good diet. But then when I got into my 20s and 30s and I was really paying attention to my nutrition, I was like, that is impossible. There is no way for me to eat more vegetables than I'm eating right now. And I'm still constipated.
Yeah.
Fast forward,
Wow.
I had 2 tiny kids, and I was a general contractor at the time in Portland, Oregon, and 2008 happened, and I was like, I can't do this. So I ended up going back to school in my very early 30s for nutrition, and I got an undergrad in dietetics, really conventional nutrition. And then hit some frustration around the coursework and decided, instead of doing the RD route, I did a master's degree in functional medicine and human nutrition, which really started to shift my focus around root cause, not only for how we can treat things and reverse conditions, but how do we proactively prevent these diseases that we're faced with that kind of feel like you get hit with the bad luck stick. You know, like, crap, how did this happen to me?
Yeah.
So I got into that, and I work in a functional medicine clinic, so I get to treat people regularly with nutrition and lifestyle. But even through my undergrad and my master's, I was literally never taught the difference between insoluble and soluble fiber. That came later in this sort of random conversation with my sisters and my mother, which my youngest sister said, have you read The Bean Queen?
Bean Queen.
I was like, listen, I don't do trends. I'm a nutritionist with a master's degree. I don't do trends. So I was really snarky. And my youngest sister was like, well, you might like it. And I ended up reading it, going into the coursework that this author had created. And she's a nutritionist as well. And really learning about, oh, there's a huge difference between soluble fiber and insoluble fiber with regards to how we would use this in our toolbox of nutrition to prevent and reverse disease. The obsession began, and then the pandemic hit, and my dear friend Lee Carson and I decided that we would actually make this into a company. So then we developed a product, and here we are with Florasophy.
I love that. So that is a really good question, because we always get like eat more fiber. We have fiber goals on our like app tracker, but I'm surprised that it doesn't break up like the type of fiber you're getting. So tell us let's just go to the basic. Tell us the difference between the 2 different fibers.
Sure. Yeah. So there's a reason that it doesn't break these things up in our trackers because it's a little nuanced. However, if you think about chopping up some raw vegetables, and we all know you crunch down on a carrot and it's got a structure to it, right? That's insoluble fiber. It is the structure of plants, okay? And it is helpful for us. It does positive things for us. It helps us feel more full because it's bulky. Fiber can't be used for your own energy. Okay, it's not digested. It moves to the toilet. There's no entry point for fiber to get into your bloodstream, soluble or insoluble. But that crunchy fiber kind of bulks up your stool. It actually kind of tickles. Think of this tickling the insides of your intestines and your colon, which helps that peristalsis, right? So that's why we say, oh, insoluble fiber can help you have better motility because it's tickling and triggering that peristalsis in your gut. So it's good. We want that in our diet.
Yeah.
Soluble fiber, on the other hand, does a very different thing. Soluble fiber is gooey. It's mushy. You can think of it as the liquid that you pour out of the can of beans, or many of us are into chia pudding these days, right? You get chia seeds wet and it's like, oh, yeah, it's the goop, right?
Yeah.
That goop does a lot in our body. It binds things that our body is trying to get rid of, toxins and excess hormones that our liver's shooting back into the intestine all day long, whether you're eating or you're not eating. And those toxins get reabsorbed right back into the bloodstream unless they're bound to soluble fibers. So think of this sticky little gooey fiber going in and it's grabbing all the junk.
Yeah.
It's also grabbing cholesterol in our gastrointestinal tract. But when you think about it, also it expands, right? So it's like a sponge. And so when it moves into your stomach and absorbs those fluids, it helps you feel more full longer. It balances your blood sugar for that reason. It's one of the major food sources for our gut microbiome. So it just has, as I got more obsessed, as you said, which is absolutely true, with soluble fiber, I was like, whoa, this is magic for us. It's good for all humans, obviously, but it's really essential for women because it's so involved in our disease risk prevention and our hormone balance, as well as our metabolism. And we all know once you hit your mid-40s, you're like, well, things are changing, right?
Yes, absolutely. And we have to work, there's no secret that at this stage of life, we need to work a little bit harder, and maybe not even harder, but smarter. We have to start implementing more things to, even for me to just stay healthy exercise wise, I got to stretch more. I got to make sure I got to warm up and cool down, but it's totally worth it when you experience the results. So same thing with fiber. So tell us, so 2 stories I have for you real quick is I did put the soluble fiber into my smoothie and I let it sit for a while. Do not, if you ever add, because it got that consistency, that ooey consistency. So totally have a visual of what you're talking about. And so tell us, like, I have a big, large salad every day. Like, I love, it makes me feel so good. But tell me about what I'm getting in that salad versus I'm probably not getting much soluble fiber. Would you guess?
Yeah, it depends. So there's a few ways to build a salad. And so if we're thinking about vegetables, some vegetables are going to have some soluble fiber, a little bit of soluble fiber. When you cook them, they actually end up releasing more of that soluble fiber. So interestingly, cooked carrots have more soluble fiber than raw carrots because of how it's released in the cooking process. Beans, for instance, when you pressure cook them, release more of the soluble fiber. So when I think about building out a salad, which I agree, for me, that's something that just helps me feel really good. I do a lot of vegetables, raw vegetables as well, on varieties, so I'm getting different colors, but then I always add beans as well as avocado, as well as sprinkling with chia seeds. So what I'm getting in that situation is lots of insoluble fiber. We're aiming for, and again, very hard to track, but we're aiming for around 20 plus grams of insoluble a day and 20 plus grams of soluble a day. So if you put a half a cup of beans or lentils on your salad, and you put a half or a whole avocado and you sprinkle with some chia seeds, you're moving that direction with your food alone. One of the reasons we decided to create Florasophy is Lee and I were tracking our soluble fiber and we were like, this is impossible. It's so hard to get 20 grams, which is what the research says you're really aiming for, without feeling so overly full all the time. So you can get your maybe 5 to 6 grams in many of your meals, but it is hard to achieve it with diet alone, just because it's filling.
You have to be intentional, right? Yes, really. And you're right. It's filling, and then you know, a lot of women that 40 grams, that's a lot of fiber. I mean, what's the standard, you know, fiber that women are getting?
Under 20 grams total is what we see in the research. I mean, the standard American is between 10 and 15 grams when we, from an evolutionary perspective, came from over 100 to 150 grams a day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so okay, so I know we have so many topics, but specific to midlife women, I have found, let's talk about cholesterol, because I have a lot of women, and, you know, I know estrogen is tied to cholesterol, and so is thyroid. In midlife, they have no cholesterol problems, and all of a sudden their cholesterol is rising. Tell us a little bit about that, and then what you have found with soluble fiber and cholesterol.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so cholesterol does start to go up in midlife, especially, I mean, for both men and women, but we see it in women around later parts of perimenopause and menopause. There are a lot of theories around why this happens, but something that is important to know is that we have to work backwards in biochemistry to really understand this. And when we hit midlife, our metabolism slows down. One of the reasons that happens is our estrogen starts to drop, right? Our ovaries are producing less estrogen. There's this evolutionary design, because estrogen is so important for our bones and our brain, that our body wants to pack fat around the midsection. Fat around the midsection makes estrogen. So it's sort of its own hormone replacement. We're not fans, right? We're like, yeah, no, thank you. I'd rather not. But in that process, what's really happening is that our ability to use the carbohydrates in our food starts to decline. So instead of using it for energy and burning it, we turn it into fat. We turn it into triglycerides and then fat. And when that starts to happen, we see this reduction in liver function often, and cholesterol is made in the liver. We also, some women start drinking more in their midlife. Stress and overwhelm is part of this, which is going to affect the liver and cholesterol. We also have more cellular damage. And whenever there's cellular damage, our body makes more cholesterol, because cholesterol comes in, it's like spackle on your sheetrock. It's like, okay, we're going to patch the holes, right? You can tell as a general contractor, all of my metaphors are about houses. So we're naturally producing more triglycerides, more cholesterol. The liver's a little more burdened, okay? So track with me here. The liver makes cholesterol, and part of the process of that is turning it into bile, which is what we use to break down fat in our food in the small intestine. So the liver makes this cholesterol, turns it into bile. Bile goes to the small intestine. You're going to emulsify your fats so you can digest them. And you're going to then reabsorb that bile into your bloodstream. That boosts your cholesterol back up. So now you're recycling cholesterol.
Yeah.
All our little hand movements here. Okay, so we're recycling cholesterol. Cholesterol is going up in the bloodstream. It's not leaving the body. It's not breaking down. This is where soluble fiber comes in. Soluble fiber in the small intestine binds to bile. You can't absorb the bile once it's bound to fiber, to soluble fiber, okay? It moves into the colon. It becomes part of your poop, and you poop out your cholesterol. This is the old school doctor eat your oat bran thing that our grandmothers were told, but we're not eating the oat bran because our blood sugar's already high. So we don't want that extra, you know, we don't want the extra, most of us. We want the no carbohydrate fiber to bind that and continue to pull it out of our systems.
I love that. So it's not that you're eating too many eggs, you're saying. It's that we are not getting this sucked out of our bodies. It's being recirculated because our system's not working optimally for getting it out.
Yeah, and I do want to make a note about this, because there is just so much controversy around dietary cholesterol and saturated fat and cholesterol levels. Some humans genetically make more cholesterol out of saturated fat and some humans don't.
Mm-hmm.
We're all unique. We are an N of one, as we would say in science, right? So yes, for some people, they pull saturated fat and cholesterol out of their diet and their cholesterol drops naturally because they're not giving your body the building blocks, but that's not the case for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, high cholesterol is a risk, and for others, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to know your risk factors, because I have a lot of people that come in and see me in the clinic and they go, I have high cholesterol, but it doesn't really matter. And I'm like, well, it might actually really matter. We need to know your inflammatory levels. We need to know the health of your arteries. So I do advise women, especially, we have a very high risk of heart disease. We ignore it. We don't talk about it. We think of it as a man thing. We have a higher risk than men. We need to pay attention to these things, and we do want to drop our cholesterol naturally as much as we possibly can, because we reduce the fodder for that fire that can start in our vascular system and create problems.
Yeah, and our risk goes up after menopause with that low estrogen, even higher than cancer. Like even higher than cancer risk. So that just blows my mind. I think of heart disease as a male's disease, but it's the highest for women after menopause. So it's really important to get that cholesterol really out of your body.
And get full assessments and know that it is a silent disease. So most of the time, the statistics are it's like 47% or something of people don't know they have heart disease until they have a heart attack or another cardiovascular event. That's the first symptom. Terrifying.
So that makes it so scary, right? Because you don't know. There's no blood work really. Some of it will tell you a little bit. Okay, so that's great. So have you seen adding more soluble fiber? What's the science behind the cholesterol? Tell us more about that. And then how long, once you start adding more fiber, how long does it take to really see those levels decline to go get retested?
That's a great question. We see this day in and day out at our clinic. So I have, I always say that my clinic is like the living laboratory for fiber. And Lee and I talk about this a lot. We're really lucky that we get to take our product and then see what happens in real lab testing. So it absolutely does drop cholesterol. It's very well researched. So you can go into PubMed and type in soluble fiber and cholesterol, and you're going to just see this huge auto-population of papers pop up, because it is, it's hard to argue that this is a cause and effect of increasing soluble fiber in your diet. Okay. So from a testing, retesting perspective, let me run through this. We always want to test total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, triglycerides, apolipoprotein B, we call it ApoB. This is the sticky part on the outside of the cholesterol molecule that makes it stick in your arteries, okay? And LP little a. These are not expensive tests. LP little a is genetic. You either make it or you don't make it. It's a teeny tiny cholesterol molecule. You don't have to test this more than once, really, because you're going to see I either make a lot of it and this is a genetic disease risk factor for heart disease, or I don't make it and it's not a factor. But those are the tests we want to see. And once you implement anything new into your routine, my recommendation is to retest 3 months later. It's enough time to see a marked difference. It's a fun fact that this is a good time to also be checking your average glucose levels, your hemoglobin A1C, because we often see that come down markedly with an increase in soluble fiber intake as well. Another risk factor for heart disease and metabolic disease.
Yes, and that's especially for us midlife women with low estrogen can cause, insulin resistance and all of that. So really, balancing out your blood sugar is key. And that's something that I teach in my group program. But I know there's some questions here. So if you have interested in the product that Megan was talking about, Florasophy, write the word fiber in. I can send you the direct link. There's also a list of foods that are high in soluble fiber that I send out with you, and you'll get a DM right there. So you could just start writing that in there if you want that. But so that's great. So 3 months consistently trying to increase your fiber, soluble fiber for cholesterol. I know we could go talk for hours on cholesterol because it's complicated, but I would say that would be a good first thing to start. You got to eat food at all your meals anyway, focusing on that soluble fiber, changing up the diet, see if that can affect your cholesterol numbers. So tell us about, okay, so estrogen does all kinds of stuff. It's very protective.
Yeah.
So, I always tell my younger ladies, I'm like, don't wish away your periods because they're just doing you so much in your body that you don't realize till it's not there.
Yeah.
And you have estrogen receptors all over. And so I know a lot of women that come to me do want to lose that, especially that belly fat. And how does eating more soluble fiber help us with our fat loss goals?
Yeah, it comes down to a couple of things. Some really obvious and some less obvious. So because soluble fiber does expand, it does trigger you to feel fuller longer. We call it it's not very PC, but we do call it the poor man's Ozempic. But that's because of a biochemical reaction, which is that the GLP-1 hormone that is increased when people use Ozempic or the semaglutide products it is a peptide that triggers the brain to feel full. It is released by the intestinal cells. Okay. Fiber triggers that same release, soluble fiber. So you're consuming soluble fiber, you expand, you feel fuller longer. You're triggering GLP-1 release to tell the brain, I'm actually satisfied, I'm fuller faster. So there's less overeating. The slowing down of the digestion in the stomach and the small intestine. Okay, so we're mostly not fans of slowing down digestion in the colon because that's constipation for many people, but slowing it down in the small intestine and the stomach slows the absorption of sugar in your food. Whether you sat down to eat rice, sweet potato, a candy bar, doesn't matter. The slowing of that absorption balances blood sugar. So instead of getting a spike that's like this and then dropping, your body doesn't know what to do with that. It's like, I can't process that. So it turns it into a triglyceride and stores it in a fat cell. Okay. So by blunting the curve, we call it, okay, it allows your muscles and your cells to use that glucose more slowly as fuel, as energy, to make it into energy instead of turning it into fat. And the other research that we have that I think is just mind-boggling is that soluble fiber and a blend of soluble fibers, you want different types, just like you want to eat different vegetables, feeds different beneficial bacteria in the colon. That's what they eat, the healthy guys. And those bacteria are involved in your metabolism and the excretion of excess toxic estrogens. So from start to finish, this is like, being a middle-aged woman myself, this is a magic wand. It is. Yeah, because you're fighting this uphill battle all the time, right? So for me, it's such an easy part of the routine to make sure I'm eating more soluble fiber and adding it in to get that metabolic benefit over time.
I mean, it's just, if you're trying to lose fat, lose weight, focusing on those whole foods is going to win every time, because you're going to do, it's so much deeper than what people realize that this whole food nutrition is doing. It's changing your gut microbiome, which it's just crazy. It's feeding the good bacteria that's increasing your metabolism. So on the long run, you're going to be maintaining that weight loss instead of, just cutting up calories and not worrying about the quality of your food.
Yeah. So, and ladies, we are in major danger if we cut our calories. It is called cognitive decline and osteoporosis. We need to eat food. This is a conversation that I have more often than you would think. We should not be living in a caloric deficit. We need food. We need to eat it. We need to burn it. Our bodies need it for the micronutrients so we can maintain the tissues of our brain and our body.
I think that's a true statement, but I think a lot of women don't realize they're not eating enough food. They're not realizing it until they actually track it. And I have a lot of women come into my program, and I am providing them with macros that are supposed to put them in a calorie deficit because their goal is fat loss, and they're eating more food. And I was like, okay, wait. And my goal is to get these ladies to eat more food. And it just like, please nourish your body, eating less, filling your body with this nourishing food. I promise you're going to feel amazing. You're going to feel amazing. You're going to look amazing.
You'll lose weight.
Yeah, you're going to lose weight.
This is the other thing I think, if I can soapbox to women, I want to say we are we're managing a lot. We're under pressure.
Yeah.
We are always under pressure, whether it's our own personal lives, the society, culture, whatever. And what our body is asking for is to feel safe. And when it feels safe, part of that is feeding it enough food and the right foods. But when it feels safe, it functions better.
Yeah.
So our metabolism increases when we're not under threat, when we're not in fight or flight. And on top of all the psychological and emotional stress that a midlife woman is normally dealing with, the last thing we need is starvation. So we need to feed ourselves.
I agree. I mean, that's my goal, is to get these ladies nourishing their body, and there's no need to be hungry. And in fact, a lot of the ladies they're not even hungry anymore because their bodies have not been receiving nourishment. Yeah. So it kind of shuts off these hunger hormones, and which is a snowball effect, because then they're not hungry, but they don't eat. So one meal a day they're having, and they're gaining weight. So it's just amazing. The body is so amazing. Like when you describe all of that, there's so many things that are happening behind the lens that we don't even know, but we do know we were meant to eat whole foods.
We were meant to eat foods and move. Yeah. And
you
know, it's interesting. There's some argument around consuming fiber, having soluble fiber in your with your meals, and it binding the nutrients in your food.
Oh.
What we're actually seeing in the research is because it slows down the digestion in the small intestine, it allows more surface time between the wall of the small intestine and your food for better absorption of your vitamins and minerals. So it is an argument for including soluble fiber in your meals and adding soluble fiber, whether it's supplemental or whatever, so you can absorb your food better from that slowing effect.
And that happens too in midlife. We do not digest as well as we did back, just from aging, living life, the stress. So that's interesting. So you're actually going to get more bang for your cow salad, or by including some soluble fiber with that salad. Yeah. Wow. That's so interesting. So, protein and fiber are my king and queen. I don't know which one should be the king. But if you are seeking fat loss, those are the two big things. And I love it because protein, mostly for me, is animal products, and fiber is going to be your plants. And so like eating foods that we are meant to eat is just huge. So we have some questions coming in. Let's see. What are some good food sources of soluble fiber?
I'm happy to run through my top foods. So beans and lentils have some of the highest levels of soluble fiber. Flax and chia, avocado, Brussels sprouts, cooked turnips, cooked Brussels sprouts. Most of us aren't eating them raw.
No.
Cooked turnips, cooked carrots are other good options, and sweet potato. These are kind of the top tier. You get a little bit of soluble fiber in a lot of foods, but those foods are up there with some of the higher levels.
And I actually have a little cheat sheet that I stole it from you, Megan, it's like eat 5 of these foods, and I give you the amounts, and you'll get the right amount of soluble fiber. If you comment the word fiber, I can send that right to your inbox. That's great. Okay, let me see. I'm just going to go in here. If your bad cholesterol is high, but the good one is high, and their triglycerides are low, do you need medication? I know what you're going to say.
Well, I like to say I am not a doctor. I just play one on TV. But so here's the thing. That is those profiles come up all the time in our clinic, and the answer is we don't know. But what you should be doing is advanced screening every couple of years. And what that can look like is a calcium score. So that looks at calcifications around the heart and the arteries around the heart. Or what we do in our clinic once a month is something called a CIMT. So you can look in your area and see if anybody's doing. This is a carotid intima media test, and it is an ultrasound of your carotid artery right here. Okay, it takes a few minutes. It's non-invasive, and what it tells you is there thickening of the arterial wall or any plaque buildup. Please know that cholesterol is one part of this and inflammation is the other. So high blood sugar, poor diet, smoking, alcohol, stress, lack of sleep, this damages the arterial wall, which means that cholesterol has a better chance of getting stuck in it. It's texture versus smooth wall, okay? And so we cannot just look at cholesterol alone, but remember you also need to have the ApoB tested and LP little a. Those are essentials for understanding your risk.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to move to another question that we didn't even get to a topic that we didn't get to talk about. But since you said October is it Cancer Awareness Month? Let's talk about fiber and cancer. Love to know that.
Yeah, this is another area where if you feel like really getting geeky, go to PubMed and type in soluble fiber and cancer, because now we have mountains of literature around this, which is really fantastic. It's great to have a tool, right? So what we're seeing is soluble fiber, increases in the consumption of soluble fiber significantly reduce the risk of developing breast cancer, ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer, uterine cancer, all gastrointestinal cancers, including colon cancer, and prostate cancer.
Wow.
There are probably more, but right now that's where we see most of the literature is linked. And there are some mechanisms that make this very logical. Remember I said that soluble fiber binds toxins. So we are living in a pretty dang toxic world now. If you want your mind to be blown, listen to Rhonda Patrick's most recent podcast on microplastics. These are not easy conversations. This is a bummer, but we are exposed through our air, our water, our food, our clothes, our furniture, and our body products every single day to things that are moving into our body, and then our liver and kidneys are tasked with getting rid of these things. Some of them we can get rid of them, some of them we can't. They're called forever chemicals.
Right.
We pass these down to our children through breastfeeding and through the uterine wall. It's cumulative over time. So what I say is we are in a situation now where optimizing our natural detox pathways has to be part of our routine every single day. We can't afford not to be doing these things. So we need to exercise and sweat. We need to drink clean water. We should be purifying the air in our bedrooms when we sleep at night. This is when your immune system resets every single night. Be mindful of what you're purchasing and how you're storing your food. Soluble fiber binds these things in the intestines that the liver is trying to get rid of by, remember, sending these toxins on bile. So imagine bile's got some fingers and it's attaching these toxins and it's sending it into the small intestine. So instead of reabsorbing those toxins right back into the bloodstream, you can bind them with soluble fiber and carry them into the toilet. With regards to female-related cancers, estrogen is a growth hormone. Estrogen does amazing things for us, but it's also a growth hormone. So if you have risk of certain cancers, we know that elevated levels of certain types of estrogen, certain metabolites of estrogen, and it's not all of them, you can test for this. These excess estrogens that our body's trying to get rid of can push the growth of female-related cancers. So along with bile holding toxins, it's holding estrogen, the excess estrogen your body's trying to get rid of. And so when we bind that estrogen, we reduce the risk of this growth hormone increasing growth of cancer in the body. Okay?
I like the saying, like, estrogen is a use it and lose it hormone.
Correct.
You use it and then you want to get it out in your body. And that's why if you're constipated, we really want to get what is the definition of constipation in the functional nutrition world? Like, because you're...
Yeah, I like this question.
Tell me that one.
So many people come in and say, my doctor said I'm fine if I have a bowel movement every 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
No, that colon then gets 3 to 4 days to reabsorb all of the toxins that it's trying to get rid of. No, thank you. You need to have at least one complete bowel movement a day, okay? You should feel like you're fully voiding. Some people, that's 2 a day. Some people, it's even 3 a day. there's a point at which we have diminishing returns, and it's like, oh, something's going on. You should not be having 8 bowel movements a day, right?
Right.
So consistency is important. At Florasophy, we say looking at your poop is a form of self-care. You need to know what it looks like. What color is it? Is there anything on the toilet water? Is there any mucus? These are important things you need to tell your doctor, but you need to have at least one complete bowel movement per day.
Yeah. And I have a friend who eats very healthfully, and I sent her a bag of your Florasophy, and she's only taking 1 teaspoon a day, and a tablespoon is the serving. And she is now not constipated. She's going every single day, and I could just tell in the way that she looks, like she just looks healthier. And I was just amazed because she's a whole food eater, all in all, but lots of salads, greens, the more soluble fiber. So, I love all that. So we really want to get all of those basically toxins out, estrogen out, because that can contribute to the cancer. We really want our bodies just to be working optimally. So how much? Okay. So many questions. It's 1:40, but there's some other questions here. What is the best time to take a fiber supplement? That's a really good one. Let's talk.
And I always say the best time to take it is when you're going to remember to take it, because all of these things are routines, right? So mine sits next to my coffee, because if it doesn't happen with coffee in the morning, it's just not happening for me. So it also depends on what you're trying to achieve. Okay. So if you're just trying to achieve detoxification, metabolically, you feel strong, then take it whenever you want to. Just take it once a day. But if you're trying to balance out the things we talked about, like blood sugar, maybe you're trying to bind cholesterol and fat in your meals, take it with your food. And you can take that broken down to 1 teaspoon at every single meal if you have that level of diligence and commitment, or you can take it once a day with your food. So it's really dependent on what your goal is. And then secondarily, just get it in.
Yeah, I agree. And I saw on your website, like if you take it with your food with cholesterol, does that matter? Is there a difference? Is the science there or really not?
It's super interesting, because if you have, let's say, genetically high cholesterol, you make a lot of cholesterol in your liver. Taking Florasophy between meals is really helpful, because your body's constantly circulating it into the intestines. So you're going to bind it whenever you take it. If you take it with your food, the soluble fiber is preferentially going to grab fats in your food. That can be unsaturated and saturated fats. But let's say you're a person that loves your eggs. Okay, fine. But you have high cholesterol. You might want to be taking your fiber with your breakfast, with your eggs, because you do want to grab some of that saturated fat. You may be a person that builds cholesterol from saturated fat. It's a sturdy percentage of us that do that.
Yeah. So like if some doctors will say go plant-based to lower your cholesterol, but I personally don't feel good on a plant-based diet. I need more protein, less carbs. Yeah. And so for me, if that is true, if it does saturated fat, taking it with it is another alternative for you.
Yeah. Women generally tend to really struggle with a vegan or vegetarian diet. There's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it being micronutrient based, iron, B12, etc. And some of it is a lack of regulating our blood sugar with that many carbohydrates and that little protein. So what we do see in the literature is, yes, if you have very high cholesterol and cardiovascular disease, a very low fat plant-based diet can reverse that. I see men thrive on that. I don't see women thrive on that. So with our women in our clinic, even with our cardiovascular expert, we are using a lot of fiber, obviously soluble fiber and supplemental soluble fiber, and we're giving them protein, animal protein, lean, clean animal protein at each meal with that large amount of plants as well, because we just do better mostly.
I feel that's the way I feel the best. I feel the best with that scenario right there. So tell me, someone asked, how do you take your soluble fiber? Tell me how you take that. How do you get that in?
I'm a get her done kind of person. So most of the time I stir it in a tiny bit of cold water and shoot it and move about my day. I will say lately I've had 2 new routines that are making their way in. So fermented food helps to add bacteria back into your GI tract, back into your colon. You can't make new bacteria by eating fiber. You can only feed the good guys. But fermented foods like yogurt, goat yogurt, coconut yogurt, whatever, kimchi, all the things that pickles, etc. So I have been focused on that recently. So I'm doing a yogurt in the morning and putting my Florasophy in it. And stirring it up with a little bit of blueberries. And then the other is there's this recipe floating around right now. You may have already seen it. It's like a 5-ingredient flax muffin. Looks like an English muffin. And I actually use 3 tablespoons of flax and 1 tablespoon of Florasophy and make that little 5-ingredient flax English muffin in the morning. And then I top it with broccoli sprouts, which is one of the things we know for sure has sulforaphanes that help you excrete toxins and estrogens, and avocado for the extra good fat and soluble fiber. So that is my routine right now. But if I'm just getting her done, I just get her done.
Yeah, same here. I put mine in my yogurt in the morning with my oatmeal. So I'm actually getting a lot of great soluble fiber first thing. And I will please send me that 5-ingredient flax muffin. I'll put it in the comment. I'll put it actually in this reel somewhere so you guys have that.
I will. It's great.
Yeah, I love that. So that could be a great way to just get that fiber in. You've kind of front loaded your day to kind of get your insurance for it. So yeah. And so do you blend it up or just shake it up? Because someone's saying, is there a trick for blending it so it doesn't get clumped up? I think you have to drink it right away. Do not let it sit.
Do not let it sit. It's supposed to get gooey, just not in your cup. It needs to get gooey in your intestines. That's where it's supposed to do all of its expansion and magic. Yeah. But so don't blend it. A quick stir in something cold. People will often ask, can I put it in my coffee? No, ladies, this is not collagen. It is not going to be a pleasant experience. It will just, heat will help that really absorb the moisture. You're going to have a very gooey, mucky, unpleasant coffee experience.
Yeah. That's good to know. Sometimes I'll just throw it in my mouth, the dry and swig water, but the yogurt is a good thing, but you do want to consume it right away because it will get that gelatinous.
Exactly.
Well, this is great. So if you comment the word fiber, I'm going to send you the link to the supplement. With the link, you get 10% off. Someone's asking for a discount. If for some reason the automation is not working, I'm going to post this in my feed and you can comment fiber and I'll make sure that you get that information. So you'll get that and the list of high soluble fiber foods so that you could just have that list, save it to your phone and just try to load up. So if you leave us with one thing today, I'm going to surprise you with this question.
Okay. I'm ready.
When it comes to soluble fiber, let's see, what would you suggest women start doing right now with that? Just one simple thing that they could do.
Because of the fact that so many people have shifted to a more paleo way of eating or lower carb way of eating, when we're not eating beans and lentils and grains, you are really going to struggle. So hence the reason that Florasophy was created. This is a very easy way to create a routine that's going to shift your health quickly. Yeah. I am a food first person, right? So I want you to eat soluble fiber in your diet, but it takes time and energy to make dietary shifts. So make the change, add this to your routine. We say, 3 teaspoons a day is going to make a world of difference in your health. And it really, really does. And we have the literature to back that up.
Yep. And I have a great fiber guide that I'm working on, so I can get that to you ladies as well with all of that stuff. And I would say in the program that I coach, we do track our fiber, and it really is eye-opening just to take a inventory of, what you're eating and, understand how important the soluble fiber is, especially for us midlife women, and trying to just add things in your day. I have a friend and she's like, I eat these 4 things every day, same thing. So I know I get it in. I know without counting and all that stuff and tracking, get that in. My half a cup of sweet potatoes, my, quarter cup of beans. It works. And I'll tell you, you'll have the most beautiful stools.
Yes. You'll have gorgeous poop and gorgeous skin. Those are the things we see almost immediately happen, right? Your body wants to get rid of the crap, and this definitely does.
Yeah. Okay, this is so helpful. So helpful. So we'll have the recording here on my feed. And again, if you want the information on the fiber supplement and the fiber foods, comment the word fiber and we'll send it right to you. But this was so great. Give me a thumbs up if you're still on and if this was really helpful, if you enjoyed this time. I just want to see, we might have Megan back on. You're just a wealth of information. I love to know. Let me know if this was helpful in the comments and we'll do it again.
Thanks for
Okay.
having me, Chris. I love being with you. It's super fun.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, Megan. Bye, everyone.
Bye.